You may be asking Krishna for a sign, but what if this message itself is the answer you weren't expecting? Something inside you paused before you even understood why. Something within you leaned in. That is how I know this message is for you. Before anything else, let me ask you something. Just before this video began, what were you truly feeling? Not the emotion you show others, not the answer you give when someone asks, "Are you okay?" But the real state beneath all of that. Was it restlessness without a clear cause? A heaviness that didn't come from effort? A strange detachment from things that once excited you? Or a quiet sense that something is shifting, even though nothing has visibly changed yet? Hold that feeling for a moment, and then write one word in the comment that describes it best. Not for anyone else, but for yourself. Because awareness begins the moment you stop dismissing what your soul is trying to say. You have been carrying yourself with strength that few people recognize. Not dramatic strength, not visible strength, but the kind that keeps moving without complaint. You adjusted when walking away would have been easier. You stayed silent when explaining felt pointless. You fulfilled responsibilities even on days when your inner world felt unsettled. And now, something is different. The old motivations don't work the same way. Certain conversations feel empty. Some connections feel distant without conflict. Your tolerance for emotional noise has dropped sharply. Let me be clear with you. This is not exhaustion. This is not confusion. This is not emotional weakness. This is consciousness expanding beyond what you were trained to accept as normal life. Your soul has reached a point where surface-level living no longer satisfies it. That is why questions have begun to arise without words. Why does everything feel unfamiliar lately? Why do old desires feel less important? Why does my intuition feel louder than my logic? Why do I feel pulled towards something new without knowing what it is? These questions are not signs of being lost. They are signs of readiness. And that is why I am speaking now. Not earlier, because you would have doubted this voice. Not later, because this moment matters. This phase of your life is sensitive. It is shaping something permanent. Right now, the universe is responding not to what you want, but to who you are becoming. That is why things are rearranging quietly. Some people are drifting away without arguments. Some paths are closing without drama. Some desires are fading without disappointment. And your mind keeps asking, why now? Because now, your inner self is ready to move forward, not through force, but through alignment. Let me ask you something else. Have you noticed that you no longer chase what drains you? That you feel uncomfortable staying where your energy doesn't belong? That your inner voice interrupts your old habits more often now? If this resonates, acknowledge it. Write, "I recognize this," in the comment section below. Because what you are experiencing is not random. You are entering a phase where your life will no longer respond to survival patterns. It will respond to truth, and truth always begins by making the old version of you feel uncomfortable. You are not losing yourself. You are being released from who you no longer need to be. You are still here. That itself tells me something about you. Most people feel discomfort when truth gets close. They leave before it reaches depth, but you stayed. That means your soul is ready to hear what your mind has been avoiding. Listen carefully now. When things begin to fall apart in your life, the human mind panics. It asks, "What am I losing?" But the soul asks a very different question. What is finally being removed? I want you to understand this clearly. Nothing meaningful leaves your life without reason, and nothing unnecessary stays when alignment begins. Right now, what feels like loss is actually filtration. I am not taking things away from you to punish you. I am removing what cannot survive the version of you that is forming. You see, there are phases in life where effort brings results, and then there are phases where release brings transformation. You have entered the second phase. That is why forcing things feels exhausting. That is why holding on feels heavy. That is why repeating old patterns feels unnatural. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever felt moments where you thought, "I don't know who I am becoming, but I know who I can't be anymore"? If that sentence touched something inside you, don't ignore it. Right? I feel this shift in the comment. Because this is the language of transition. You are standing in the space between identities. The version of you that survived, and the version of you that is meant to live fully, cannot exist at the same time. That is why certain relationships feel distant now. They were built around an older version of you. That is why certain dreams no longer excite you. They were born from a smaller understanding of yourself. That is why your tolerance has changed. You are no longer designed to endure what once felt normal. This is not arrogance. This is not emotional coldness. This is evolution. I need you to hear this clearly. You are not becoming less emotional. You are becoming more precise with your energy. You are not withdrawing from life. You are withdrawing from what drains life out of you. You are not losing interest. You are gaining clarity. And clarity often feels lonely at first, because it separates truth from habit. Have you noticed how silence feels different lately? Earlier silence felt empty. Now it feels necessary. Earlier being alone felt uncomfortable. Now it feels like relief. Earlier you filled space with noise. Now you protect your peace instinctively. This is not withdrawal. This is alignment training. Your soul is teaching you discernment, and discernment is required for what comes next. Because where you are being guided, you cannot carry emotional baggage, outdated identities, or borrowed expectations. Let me tell you something most people never realize. When divine timing activates, life doesn't immediately give answers. It first removes distractions. That is why confusion appears before clarity. That is why endings come before direction. That is why detachment arrives before purpose. You are not meant to understand everything right now. You are meant to trust what is unfolding. And trust does not come from certainty. It comes from inner recognition. So let me ask you this gently. Do you feel an inner no more clearly now than before? Do you sense when something is misaligned without needing proof? Do you feel resistance towards situations that once felt acceptable? If yes, acknowledge it. Right? My intuition is stronger, in the comment, because intuition sharpens right before destiny shifts. You may have noticed something lately that is difficult to explain. Your emotions don't follow their old patterns anymore. Some days, you feel unusually calm, not happy, not excited, just centered. And on other days, feelings rise suddenly, without warning, without a clear reason. Your mind asks, why am I reacting like this? But your soul already knows the answer. This is not instability. This is emotional recalibration. Let me explain. For a long time, your emotions were shaped by survival. You learned when to suppress, when to endure, when to adjust. You reacted based on conditioning, expectations, and fear of loss. But now, that system is dissolving. Your heart is no longer filtering itself to fit into spaces that no longer belong to you. That is why emotions surface honestly now. Not to overwhelm you, but to clear what cannot travel forward. Have you felt moments where old memories return unexpectedly? Not to hurt you, but simply to be seen? Have you noticed feelings you thought were resolved show up one last time without intensity, without control over you? If you felt this right, I understand this release, in the comment. Because this is not regression, this is completion. Nothing leaves your system unfinished. Old wounds are not resurfacing to reopen pain. They are resurfacing to exit completely. Think of it this way. Before a river becomes clearer, the silt rises to the surface one final time. Your emotional world is doing the same. That is why you feel sensitive without being fragile. That is why tears come without sadness. That is why silence feels healing rather than empty. You are no longer reacting. You are processing, and processing requires space. That is why you crave fewer conversations. That is why you protect your energy instinctively. That is why you feel drained after superficial interactions. This is not antisocial behavior. This is energetic intelligence forming. Let me ask you something important. Have you noticed that your heart now rejects what your mind once justified? That logic no longer convinces you to stay where you feel misaligned? If yes, right, my heart leads now, in the comment. Because this shift is essential. Where you are being guided next, your life will not be built on logic alone. It will be built on alignment, and alignment requires honesty with yourself. You are learning to listen to discomfort without running from it. You are learning to observe emotions without drowning in them. You are learning to let feelings pass without attaching identity to them. This is emotional mastery in formation, and emotional mastery is needed for what is coming. Because the next phase of your life will demand presence, not distraction, not emotional clutter, not unresolved baggage. That is why clarity does not arrive suddenly. It arrives gradually, after the noise has settled. Right now, you are in the settling phase. The phase where your nervous system is learning peace. The phase where your heart is learning safety without attachment. The phase where your soul is learning trust without proof. This is delicate work, and that is why I am guiding you gently. There is something you've been carrying quietly. A question that returns in silence. What if things had worked out differently? What if I hadn't missed that opportunity? What if that door had stayed open? You don't ask this out loud. You ask it when the world goes quiet. Let me answer you now, not from logic, but from truth. What slipped away from your life was not taken from you, it was withheld for you. You see, there are moments when the mind believes something was meant to happen, but the soul knows it would have limited your future. I never remove something without seeing 10 steps ahead. Some opportunities disappeared because they were too small for who you are becoming. Some plans collapsed because they were built on an older version of you. Some paths ended because they would have demanded compromise of your truth, and I will never ask you to shrink to fit your destiny. Think back honestly. There were chances you wanted badly, but if they had worked out, you would have had to silence your intuition. You would have had to tolerate what drained you. You would have had to live half-aligned. That is not your path. That is why timing interfered. Not to frustrate you, but to protect you. Have you noticed something else? When those doors closed, your life didn't stop, it paused. And in that pause, you were forced to listen inward instead of running forward. That pause was intentional, because clarity does not arrive when you are rushing. It arrives when movement is suspended. Let me ask you something gently. Have you experienced delays that felt unnecessary at the time, but later you realized they saved you from something? If yes, right, I see it now, in the comment, because this awareness changes how you interpret your entire past. Nothing that missed you was meant to stay with you, and nothing meant for you can pass you by. Your life is not behind schedule, it is being paced precisely. There is a rhythm to your journey that cannot be rushed. Some people meet love early, some meet purpose later, some awaken slowly, some awaken suddenly. Comparison distorts timing, alignment respects it. You are not late, you are exact. What you thought were missed, chances were actually corrections. What felt like rejection was redirection. What appeared as stagnation was recalibration. And during those moments when nothing moved externally, something critical was shifting internally. Your standards were rising, your awareness was sharpening, your tolerance for misalignment was dissolving. This is why you no longer feel excited by shortcuts. This is why quick success doesn't tempt you. This is why superficial rewards feel empty. You are being prepared for something that requires integrity, and integrity cannot be rushed into existence. Let me tell you something important. When I delay something, it is never to test your patience. It is to strengthen your discernment, so that when the right opportunity arrives, you recognize it not by excitement, but by peace. You will not have to chase it. You will not have to convince yourself. You will not have to silence doubt. It will fit, and you will know. If you feel a quiet trust forming inside you right now, acknowledge it. Write, "I trust this process," in the comment. Because trust is not built through explanations, it is built through recognition, and recognition is happening. What is unfolding in your life now is not a setback. It is positioning. You are being placed exactly where your next chapter can begin cleanly, without residue from the past. And as this alignment settles, you will notice something unmistakable. Your fear will lose urgency. Your decisions will feel lighter. Your direction will feel clearer without effort. That is how you know you are no longer forcing life. Life is responding, and you are ready to meet it. There is a quiet realization forming inside you. You may not have named it yet, but you've felt it. The old ways of defining yourself don't fit anymore. Not because they were wrong, but because they were temporary. For a long time, your identity was built around survival, around roles you had to play, around expectations you learned to carry, around patterns that once kept you safe. But safety is not your destination. Growth is, and growth always asks one question: who are you when you are no longer reacting? Right now, something fundamental is changing. You are no longer driven by the need to prove. You are no longer motivated by fear of loss. You are no longer sustained by approval. That does not mean you care less. It means you are becoming more anchored. Tell me, have you noticed that you no longer explain yourself the way you used to? That silence now feels more truthful than justification? If yes, right, I feel this change, in the comment, because this is not withdrawal. This is self-definition. You are beginning to choose alignment over acceptance, and that choice reshapes identity. Earlier, you adapted to be understood. Now you prefer being true over being liked. Earlier, you endured to maintain connection. Now you release to maintain peace. This shift may feel unfamiliar, at times, even isolating, but it is necessary because the version of you that is emerging cannot live in borrowed frameworks. You are not meant to fit into old labels. You are not meant to shrink your awareness. You are not meant to repeat cycles just because they feel familiar. You are stepping into authorship of your own life. And authorship requires courage, not loud courage, but quiet certainty. There is another sign of this identity shift. You no longer romanticize struggle. You respect effort, but you no longer glorify pain. You understand now that growth does not require suffering. It requires honesty. That is why your tolerance has changed. That is why you step back when energy feels misaligned. That is why you no longer argue to be right. You don't need to win anymore. You need to be aligned. Let me tell you something important. This version of you has always existed. It was just waiting for the right moment to emerge. And that moment is not created by force. It is created by readiness. Your life has been preparing you quietly, through situations that refined you, through endings that freed you, through delays that slowed you down enough to see clearly. This is why returning to your old self feels impossible now. You can remember who you were, but you cannot live there anymore. If you tried, it would feel like betrayal. If that truth resonates, acknowledge it. Right, I cannot go back, in the comment, because recognizing this is a turning point. Once identity shifts, life responds differently. Choices become clearer, boundaries become natural, direction begins to form without struggle. You are no longer searching for who you are. You are remembering, and remembrance changes everything. There is a subtle pull inside you now, not excitement, not ambition, but a steady inner nudge that doesn't go away. You feel it when things go quiet. You feel it when you are alone with your thoughts. You feel it when you try to return to old habits and something inside resists. This is not confusion. This is calling. For a long time, your life was about coping, adjusting, managing. Now, it is about meaning. You are no longer satisfied with getting through the day. You want to live with awareness. That is why distractions feel heavier. That is why shallow conversations exhaust you. That is why your attention naturally turns inward. Your soul is asking a different question now. Not, what do I want? But, what am I here for? This question does not come to everyone. It comes only when a person has outgrown survival. Have you noticed that you feel restless even when nothing is wrong? That success without alignment feels empty? That comfort without purpose feels dull? If yes, acknowledge it quietly. This restlessness is sacred. It appears when your life is ready to move from routine to resonance. You are being drawn toward a path that requires presence, a path that asks you to live consciously, not automatically. This does not mean renouncing life, it means inhabiting it fully. You are being prepared to act from awareness, not impulse, from truth, not fear, from inner clarity, not external pressure. This is why your intuition feels sharper. This is why you pause before decisions. This is why your inner voice interrupts choices that once felt normal. You are not overthinking, you are listening, and listening is the foundation of purpose. There comes a moment when effort alone is no longer required. Alignment takes over. You may not see dramatic signs yet, but something has already shifted. Life begins to respond differently. Situations feel less forced. Decisions feel less heavy. You start recognizing what is not yours faster. This is not luck, this is resonance. Your inner world has changed, so your outer world must reorganize. You will notice that certain things come to you without chasing. Certain answers appear without struggle. Certain people enter your life without confusion. Not because you searched harder, but because you stopped resisting yourself. Destiny does not arrive with noise, it arrives with ease. And ease does not mean absence of effort, it means absence of inner conflict. You are learning to move without friction. That is why fear no longer controls your decisions. That is why urgency has softened. That is why trust feels more natural than anxiety. Your life is not shrinking, it is simplifying, and simplification is power. You are being positioned where your energy can be used cleanly, without leakage, without compromise, without inner contradiction. This is what it feels like when destiny begins to recognize you back. Now, everything depends on one thing. Not action, not speed, but choice. The choice to trust what you feel, even when you cannot explain it. The choice to honor your inner knowing, even when it challenges the familiar. The choice to move forward without dragging the past behind you. You are standing at a threshold, not between success and failure, but between repetition and truth. Nothing is asking you to rush. Nothing is asking you to force clarity. All that is required now is honesty. Honesty with what drains you. Honesty with what nourishes you. Honesty with who you have become. When you choose from this place, life opens naturally. Not all at once, but steadily. And you will recognize this path, not by excitement, but by calm certainty. That is how alignment feels. You are not alone in this movement. You have been guided through every season, even the ones you did not understand. What is unfolding now is not random. It is response. Response to your growth. Response to your awareness. Response to your readiness. Walk forward gently. You do not need to become someone else. You only need to stop abandoning yourself, and that is enough.